Hey there, comic book people of the world, let's talk about DiBEARCity. This is a comic that was published by Class Comics, and it was written and drawn by David Cantero. Spoilers, 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 I'm warning you now in advance. This first issue, we're introduced to the 5 main characters, all of which, obviously, are gay bears. The first character introduced is Chase, who, even though he's having lots and lots of hot sex, unfortunately, he's also very lonely. The character of Chuck, who's sort of like the granddaddy of the group, also, though, he's still having lots of sex. We have Jack, who acts a bit more masculine, but he's also the one that's much more sensitive. He's also the guy that's using the Grinder app, or in this instance, it's the Porker app. We have Fisherman, who unfortunately is a widow. His husband recently passed on. He's also a father taking care of his child, Danny. And finally, we're introduced to Billy, who I'm assuming is a gamer, but that's really the only personality trait that's really put forth in this first issue. Also, the fact that Billy's a super sweetheart and a really awesome character in this, and probably my favorite one so far introduced. And oh my god, that's Super Mario Bros. 3 in the background. I would totally have that hanging up if I had that poster. This first issue is more of an introductory issue for the characters and their dynamics between each other. Besides the sexual aspect of their lives, they are closely bonded together as a group of friends. Although that does not stop them from interacting with each other in a sexual way as well. I mean, it is Class Comics, so you would expect some sexual tension between all of them. Even though all of them do have a lot of sexual encounters, Jack is the one that makes a big point about using protection for all of his endeavors, which is rare for Class Comics because you don't usually see that too often, but I am glad that they are making a point of showing it. All of the characters have been humanized in the sense where you get a bit of respect for them and you can also relate to them. Like I said, Chase is having a lot of sex, but he's also really lonely because he's not connecting with any of these guys. Fisherman is still mourning the death of his husband while still trying to raise their son. Chuck is a bit older and probably a bit wiser. He acts a bit more like the patriarch of the group. And like I said, Jack does portray himself as being a strong character, but he's also the most sensitive out of the group. I love that all of these guys have very different backgrounds, some of which that a lot of people can connect with. This first issue is very much straightforward, and I'm happy with the idea that we get an idea about the characters so that we know what we're going to be getting into in the future issues. If you pay attention to each of the panels in the background, there's a lot of little cameo appearances of other Class Comic titles. At the end of this issue, we get some character profiles that have been drawn, as well as some of the sketches drawn out by David Cantero. There's also the Class Comics Silent Edition, where all of the word bubbles have been taken out, so you can appreciate the art for itself. I think this is a great comic book series to jump on board with, and it's a big departure from any of the other superhero titles that Class Comics has done. So if you're interested in reading this, you want to go to classcomics.com and you can download a PDF version from them. But with that, thank you guys for watching me in this video. If you haven't done yet, check out my Patreon site, check out my social media sites, check out my websites, and everything else out there. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later.
I'm in love with a hero.
There's a panel in this where the character of Jack uses a glass bottle in a way that should not be used in any way whatsoever, and it's something that kind of freaks me out a little bit thinking about it, just because I've heard some horror stories online about glass bottles and how they shouldn't be used in certain acts.